Hey everybody, it's the Biohacking Blondes here. I'm Molly, and we're here with Alex, and we're gonna chat with you
Hello.
guys today. We're so excited. This is our second podcast. The first podcast we did last week, and it was really fun. We really enjoyed it, but it was a little long, so we're gonna cut this one a little shorter for you. We're going to cap ourselves off at about 30 minutes. So hopefully you guys, we won't have to spend too much time listening to our voices, but we hope we enjoy it. We're going to talk a little bit today about what we did this week and then also some mindset stuff. So let's just jump in. Alex, what did you do this week that was interesting?
Whoa. Hi, everyone. Well, it was a pretty busy week for me. I think every week is actually pretty busy these days.
Right.
Yes. So what did I do this week? Well, I had a really interesting meeting with Wendy Kramer. She's got Kramer Wellness. Is in Vero Beach. Is offered 60. She is a amazing woman, cancer survivor, stage 4 cancer, kind of reversed it herself through different modalities, techniques, detoxification, etc. And I was up in her clinic. She's got the HOCAT, she's got colonic, she's got hydrogen, she's got, I mean, all sorts of amazing things. So I saw her, and she actually carries Scandi Labs, my product, so she needed more, so that was great. And then we're checking in, and she has IV drips as well. I'm going, and the PEMF Centropics that I'm actually heading to Orlando to look at tomorrow, which I'm very excited about.
Ooh.
It's the newest kind of PMF, which is a cell activator as well. So yeah, very excited about that one. But anyway, she's got it already and she loves it. She's got the Beamer and that, but she likes that one better. But so that was cool. I did that, and then
Can you
I
tell people a little bit about what a PEMF is? Is it a
yeah,
mat?
yeah, so it's a mat, and this one, the one I'm looking at to bring into to the place I'll be at, is it's called Centropics, and it basically you lay on it, and it's pulsed electromagnetic frequencies.
Hmm.
So it goes in, and really what it does is it makes the oxygen in your body, it makes the blood flow a lot faster, so it creates more oxygen, and it makes the blood go around your body more efficiently and
Mm.
faster, basically. So it's quite interesting, and yeah, very interesting. I'll tell you more about it next week, but
Cool.
pretty pumped about that. So that was that. And then what else? I went yesterday. It was wonderful. I was down in West Palm Beach at Outlive Labs. Wonderful. Our friend Debs that we met at the last biohacking conference in Orlando in May. She's become a friend of ours, Molly and myself. And I was down at our event that she threw yesterday. And we were basically, she was screening Tony Robbins on her screen, and we were watching it. And she calls it a Time to Rise Summit. So it's today and for another 2 days. If you guys have time, you should go down because it's fabulous. And her whole setup is fabulous. She's got the cold plunge, and she's got the infrared sauna. She's got the bio optimizer. No, not the bio optimizer, the biocharger,
Biocharger,
uh,
yeah.
which is a Tesla coil with different earth kind of frequencies. And yeah, it's amazing. And I was there, and I did a cold plunge, and this time I did 4 minutes, and I'm pretty proud of myself for doing that. So
That's
that was
amazing.
awesome. Yeah,
For
that was really
people who
cool. And
don't for people who don't know, that's means she was in freezing cold water for 4 minutes straight and was able to just breathe her way through it, and it's very powerful, right?
It,
Tell
it's
them about your
extremely powerful.
yeah.
Yes, it's so powerful because if you can apply what you feel and learn and tell yourself in that moment, you basically just have to surrender, right? And trust yourself, trust your breathing, and you just got to go with it. And if you can apply that when you feel stressed, anxious, when you're in a difficult situation, that is very powerful. So the cold can teach us a lot. And really, the teacher and the master of this is Wim Hof. He started it, the Dutch guy. If you haven't looked at him already, I tell everyone I meet every day to check him out, because he has changed so many people's lives. His wife committed suicide, and then he decided to. He was in deep depression, and he started looking at the cold, and going into the cold, and then he coupled that with the breathing techniques, because the breathing is the key to actually be able to do it. So yeah. Anyways, that's the end of me. And then tonight we are heading down to Mar-a-Lago, so that's exciting for a disco party.
That sounds really fun. I love
Yeah,
that.
that'd be great. So
Um,
that was my week. What about you, Molly?
Sure. Yeah. So this week I see clients per usual, but I also was on the phone quite a bit with a rep from Fagrin. They're a genetics company. And I've been reading, so I don't know if anybody's heard of Dr. Ben Lynch, but he's like this kind of incredible doctor who has a supplement company, but he also writes books on histamine and genetics. And he wrote a new book called Dirty Genes, a breakthrough program to treat the root cause of illness and optimize your health. It's a great book, really interesting. And I'm considering adding a genetics test to my protocols for all of my clients, because it is kind of a nice baseline to see, kind of where people might be naturally deficient in certain vitamins, um, and where they might, kind of be able to learn a little bit more about who they are as a person, like see if they have an MTHFR gene, all of these things. And what I've done in the past is I can take someone's 23andMe data or any other genetic test that they have. And I'm a practitioner with Pure Genomics with Pure Encapsulations. So I can upload raw data from any DNA kit into the Pure Genomics portal, and it creates a whole list of a protocol basically for a person based on their genetics. Like you are naturally deficient in vitamin A, or you are naturally deficient in, you know,
Incredible.
in whatever it is. So it really is quite eye opening, and it kind of can explain a lot of things about you that maybe a doctor couldn't quite pinpoint, things that you're like, oh, I like didn't realize I was always low in this vitamin, or that's why I feel this way about this, or that's why I can't, that's why I get sick when I have B vitamins, right? If you have an MTHFR gene, or if you're sensitive to folic acid, those kinds of things. So this Fagram company, they're really cool. They do a DNA sample collection kit. They do a full spectrum DNA kit for $379, which actually is great because it's like a one-time fee. You never have to test yourself again. Like genetics are kind of set in stone. It's like a swab kit. They don't sell their information like 23andMe, right? So that's a positive there. So
Yeah.
I know there's some people who don't like 23andMe because they with Ancestry, they kind of do this thing where they sell the data to other kind of companies and things like that, which is, just a little bit like concern.
Hmm. Oh
Um,
yeah.
so I wanted to find a company that was doing something, that was doing sort of a similar thing, but with a little bit more finesse around it. So they have this kit. It's called a Pro 7 DNA sample collection kit. They sent me two kits. So I'm going to do my own and then start adding it to my protocols. And I think it's going to really help clients to kind of see where they could be using their genetics to help them with their health. So
Wonderful, wonderful. I love that. Can I just ask something? I
yep.
was also on a call with two biohackers, one from out west in California, and then one that is in Turkey. And they were talking about a test called glycinage, maybe Glycanage.
Okay.
And I just wonder, have you heard about that? Because they thought that was pretty revolutionary.
Glycination. It sounds like they're looking at glucose if it's a test like that. That's interesting. No, I've not heard of that one.
Okay,
Interesting. Yeah.
we'll look
Yeah,
at that.
there's a ton of companies. I mean, I know like when we go to the biohacking conferences, the DNA company is another good one. It's hard to find them at a reasonable price point. I think that's actually why 23andMe was so successful, because they're able to like sell it at a 200 price point, which is
Right,
like good, because all the other ones are like in the 300s, and I think the DNA company they're at like 450 or something a test. So
right.
you know, they're not cheap. So, you know, you gotta kind of keep that in mind, but at least you only have to do it once. That's what's so great about genetics. It's like they don't really change. So, we're not talking about epigenetics, just pure on genetics. So it is just like a swab in your throat. But that's
Great.
interesting. Did they say anything more about what that one was about?
Yeah, so it's actually the only biological age test that can accurately measure your unique response to life changes. Discover
Oh,
your biological age. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, we got to look deeper into that. Why I mention this because those two women thought that that was like the coolest thing, actually, and that was from A4M that they found.
oh,
So
cool. So
yeah, and
what can they get from that when they find out their biological age? Does it give them recommendations?
yeah, so let me see. I have to dig a little bit deeper in it, but the one girl she's 45 and she was actually so she's always been told that she is, younger than her age. And I mean, she looks great and everything. She's very glam. She actually they said this test showed her that she was 11 years older than her biological age.
Wow.
And then it actually says here, I'm looking quickly, start your wellness journey. So they obviously have, what you get, how you can change it, I guess,
Yeah.
to slow down aging. Only measure your current biological yeah, I mean, we should look deeper into that to see what it
Yeah,
is.
that would be a fun one. That would be a fun one for both of us to do, and then we can report on it.
Yes, that's great.
And tell
Exactly.
people
Hopefully
like,
good result.
"Oh,
Only if it's good result.
yeah."
Right. Yeah.
I think those are great. I think the tricky part with that is like what is the follow-up, right? Like what is someone to glean from that? Um,
Yep.
so what I like about, this Fagram test too is it's a little different also than the 23andMe because 23andMe doesn't really tell you how to like make lifestyle changes based on genetics. They kind of are just like, you don't like asparagus because you have this gene,
Right.
it's very kind
Right.
of basic stuff that's like not really that like informative about
Right.
what you need to know in your life. So,
Right.
but this vagrant one was kind of cool. So I'm very excited to do that. I'm going to do one on myself and see how it
I'm
goes.
so excited. Report back how that goes.
Yeah, definitely. So that would be a fun podcast to do too. Just
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
but yeah, so that was kind of my week, which is a typical week for the most part. But we wanted to also like get into the podcast today and really talk a little bit about mindset. Alex and I went to a conference last week. It's a leadership mastermind, and it was led by Dr. Josh Axe, who is like kind of a renowned doctor in the holistic field. He's a chiropractor, but even more than that, he is like this like incredible businessman, and he has like $100 million supplement company called Ancient Nutrition. I think he worked at Garden of Life too, and then he also has like a media company, which we just found out also. So anyway, so he's running this amazing mastermind for other health practitioners. So Alex and I went. It was at the Ben Hotel in West Palm Beach. And we had a fun time, and we learned a lot, and there are a lot of things that we took away like from a business perspective, but also just from in general, how to look at the world and how to keep a positive mindset, and which we thought that you guys would find really interesting. So yeah, so what did you think, Alex? Tell me what some of your takeaways were.
Yeah, I'm always interested in mindset. That's something that I really, yeah, I want to get more and more honed in on and teach people. And it will be part of my kind of protocol that I'm currently writing for kind of my biohacking lab. But I'm very interested in mindset because you can take all the supplements, you can do all the right things in sense of, you're exercising every day, you're going to bed every day at 9 o'clock, you're taking so many supplements, but you still don't feel great.
Right.
So their mindset is such a critical important role. And how can we shift that mindset? How can we get out of kind of a rut of being, maybe not in a good mindset? Or how can we at least start recognizing it? And then when kind of where you shouldn't be, and where you want to go to, or how you want to feel, let's start on a journey kind of to change the bad patterns, let's say, right?
Yeah.
So I liked what they said. For example, every day, write down one success that you had during the day, any success. And success can mean many, many things, right? A success you had with, you got your daughter to eat, the broccoli that she didn't eat the day
Right.
before, or, I mean, it can be so many things. And success is different for everyone. So I thought that was a good one. I always talk about what is your why, and everyone out there, if you haven't seen the TED Talk from Simon Sinek, um, start with a why, how great leaders inspire change. You need to see it, and you don't have to be a business person or a entrepreneur to watch that. Everyone should watch that, because you got to know your why. Because if you know your why, you can then your purpose, why you're here, why you're doing what you're doing, and that will actually make you get out of bed every day, or it will make you, it will give you that drive. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's really, really important. Also, what we focus on is really what we see. So an example, if you watch, let's say the news every day, right, and you see all this negativity, you're also going to be focusing on that negativity, and you're going to live in that negative space. So kind of don't focus on that. Focus on positive things, and also surround yourself with positive people is really important. And then the other thing, you are a hero in your own journey, in your own story. That's a good one. I like that a lot. And the other thing I like is that we also learned is that, or reflected on, is luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. I
Mm.
like that a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then one more thing I wanted to mention here is anxiety. So anxiety, it's in Greek, means to separate and divide.
Ooh,
Okay,
that was a good one. Yeah.
that's a really good one. I like that one about a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah. What about you, Molly? What is your a couple of takeaways?
Yeah. Well, I think for sure, and I try to do this with clients too, and I'm going to focus more on it in the future too, but focusing on mindset first before, before kind of anything else when it comes to your health, right? Because
Yes.
you really have to be in a certain state of mind to even follow a protocol, or to like order testing, or, this and that. And you have to kind of, what I found with some clients is you do all these tests, you do the supplements, you get their diet right, and then there's still this sort of like underlying issue, right? And for me, I think that in most cases, that's always some sort of limiting belief that that person has about themselves, right? So
Mhm.
you can kind of hear it in the way they talk, and you can kind of hear it in what's happening in their life, and then you kind of like hone in on it, like, what is that one last little thing that from a mindset perspective changes your health outcome. So
Mhm. Mhm.
there's this book called Cured, and maybe we talked about it in the last podcast, but it's a book about spontaneous remissions with cancer. It's called Cured, and
Yes.
it's by Jeffrey Rediger. He's a medical doctor who studied all these spontaneous remissions from cancer, because he was saying, people would go into the doctor's offices and they'd be better from their cancer and without any treatment. And they'd be like, well, like, oh, that's great. Now just send them home, instead of studying them and being like, well, what did that person do in their life to get all of a sudden spontaneously get better and don't have cancer anymore, right? So but one of the biggest, and so he studied all these cases, and the people who got better, he said the first thing that they did was they changed their mindset. Like, they changed something in their lives where they radically changed the way they felt about themselves, or they radically changed their life in some way. They, got out of a bad relationship, or they started,
Food.
yeah. Yeah, they started like a new career, or they just all of a sudden found their purpose. Like, that sort of healed them more even so than any kind of, radiation or oncology treatment, or or diet. And so that was really interesting. That's always like rung true with me. Like you
Mhm.
really have to um change this thought about yourself. And a lot of times though, it's not, hanging around with positive people is awesome. But I think sometimes people get in a rut where they can't quite find the right way. And for some of those people, I think, EMDR therapy can be really helpful for mindset shifting because it focuses in on your limiting belief, and you kind of like work with a therapist and they tell you about your limiting belief. And then you do this EMDR therapy, which is rapid eye movement therapy that helps you reconcile your emotions. And it's kind of a famous therapy for PTSD and for veterans. But basically, we're all traumatized, so basically anyone could benefit from from it
Right,
to
right.
some degree, right? Um, uh,
100%.
but like it's just an interesting thing to do with getting that mindset straight. And then all of a sudden you start to see the benefits in your health and how things are going. So in the talk too, like this weekend, there was one guy who got up, I think he was another chiropractor. He got up and he talked about how his especially being recognizing when the people you're around aren't right for you and making that shift quickly, and how that affects your mindset too. So like even if you hired someone and you don't really, you like them at first and you've paid them and everything, but then all of a sudden you notice like, oh, they have like a negative mindset, or they only care about money, and they don't, they're not caring about people's health as much as they care about the money side of things or whatever. And you kind of have to like recognize that early on. And that's where it takes kind of like that emotional intelligence to like move forward in your life, to be able to kind of get rid of the naysayers and find all the people who are going to inspire you, because that's what he said. If you're stuck with these naysayers and you don't get out fast enough, then you miss your opportunity to meet the people with the high level ideas, right? So I
Right.
thought that was really brilliant, because it was like, not only are you being held down by the negativity, but
Missing out on
you're
the
missing out. Yeah,
yes.
that, which is even worse because that like hits at a FOMO level, right? Like we
Absolutely.
all understand what FOMO is, and then it's like, oh my gosh, we're missing out on
Right.
all these amazing people because we're stuck with these other people in our lives who are kind of bringing us down. So anyway, so I thought it was a great conference. I learned a lot. What did you think?
Oh, I thought it was wonderful. Like, I think it's always good. Like a lot of these things you know already, but you're being reminded. And sometimes it takes a couple of reminders or someone saying it in a different way to really like, wow, I'm going to start implementing that.
Yeah.
So, I remember when my husband started the Wim Hof breathing, I was told by a father on the soccer pitch. Have I told you this before, by the way?
I don't think so.
No, I was told by a dad. We lived in London at the time. He's like, "You got to check out this guy Wim Hof." And I went home to tell my husband. The next day, my husband started Wim Hof breathing technique. He's done it. He has not missed one single day in 9 years. Right. So even when we travel, I mean, he does it. Even if we get up at like 4 in the morning, he would do it like in the airport or something like that. But long story short, I will be watching my husband for about 3 years, sitting in our flat in London, doing this Wim Hof breathing every morning,
Yeah.
like this. And I'd be sitting there drinking my coffee, watching him. So my friends were like, "Hey, why are you watching him? Why aren't you doing it?" I'm like, "Well, like one day I'm going to start, right?" And I
One day.
kept on saying that for 3 years. And it took me this one incident we had at the boys' school. There was a woman speaking. She was talking to the parents, and she'd had a horrible, horrible upbringing. She was sold. She was basically sold by her mother for drugs, and she was sex trafficked. And at one incident, she almost died. Right. And she brought herself back, and basically she was in an orphanage, and then but growing up to she lives now, she's 50 years old, lives a normal life, she's got her own children. And how did she do this? Well, she credited two things. One was breathing techniques. It wasn't specific Wim Hof, but it was breathing techniques, and the other one was a tapping technique. So I said to myself at that moment, that was a changing moment for me, where I looked at this woman. I'm like, you have gone through that much horrible things, and you've changed your life, and you're actually living a normal, loving life, as normal as you can, right? But and I said, you know what? damn it, Alexandra, you are going to start this now. So the next day I started. That was my kind of kickoff to this whole like Wim Hof. But again, I'm telling the story because it can apply to so many different things. So like, what is it? At what moment do you get kind of triggered to start a new habit or a new something that you've heard maybe many times about, right?
Right.
Who kicks you off? And it can be the right moment, but it can also be the right person. So that's why I thought it was interesting. The other thing that I think is really good to remember, and this is actually when you're talking about mental health, I think small little changes every single day and make something like a breathing technique, like a journaling, like a meditation. If you do it every single day, then it actually becomes a habit, right? So it becomes something you do every day. So, repetitive, and after a couple of months, it becomes then a habit, and then it becomes part of you. Then you cannot not do it.
Hmm.
So just small little steps can make big, big changes.
Yeah, and it can take time to get, in a
Yes.
rhythm, but like over time you're like, you'll be so proud of yourself when you kind of achieve that where you're doing something regularly, and especially in the morning, it's so good to start the day off that way because it kind of, hits
That's
it
the
with
tone.
right, sets the tone for the rest of the day. Just a small, breathing technique, even a 4-7-8 breath, or, and we can probably link to some of this stuff after the show too. So
Yes.
that people can see, go visit Wim Hof's website and maybe just do one of his protocols really quick. But it's
Yeah.
very, invigorating for some people, it can be exhausting for other people, but it's kind of your path, and getting all that air into, getting all that oxygen feeds your cells and actually has a strong physiological effect, not only on like your mind and anxiety, but on like healing, right? And all of those things that keeps you kind of young. Speaking of longevity and biological age, right? It's going to keep you going. Like even on a blood chemistry test, I look at your CO2 levels, so that's important. And whenever I see that that's really low, I'm like, oh, okay, so this person is breathing really quickly throughout the day. Maybe they're even in a state of hyperventilation. They don't even know it, you know.
Right.
So, which every time I say the word hyperventilation, I take a deep breath because I'm like, I'm talking and I'm not breathing.
Yeah.
Um,
It,
but
and actually, Molly, that's interesting because didn't my husband have really? So my husband did the testing with Molly, and he, by the way, I mean, he was blown away by how good and how thorough Molly is with her testing and her follow up and the protocol. She is incredible. So, didn't so just to say that, Molly,
thank you, appreciate that.
and yeah, no, of course, but it wasn't his CO2 really high?
No, yes, his was good. His was perfect actually, which
Oh,
was
not high. Sorry, not high. That's
it
not
was
what I
good.
meant.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was in a good range, right, exactly, which I rarely see. So
right,
that was impressive.
right.
I was like, "Well,
Which you rarely see, right? Which you
oh,
rarely see,
yeah,
right?
nobody's breathing anymore." Like, everybody's like, in a constant state of, like, kind of panic, right? Which is like that hyperventilation state where you're constantly busy and you never rest, right? That's when you get into these stages, and that's when anxiety can pop up. That's when, health issues can pop up. And it's all kind of connected to the breath really at the end of the day. So there's definitely a lot to breathing. It's more than just this
Breathing.
superficial thing. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of physiological processes that are happening when you're doing that, and just like making you feel better from an anxiety standpoint, making your health better. Your blood cells get oxygen, and your blood cells are what heal wounds, heal tears in the skin, and like all these different things. So it's critical.
Yes.
And it's like it's definitely, worth doing. So I hope that everybody, like, we'll link to it after the show, and you guys can try some breathing techniques. I typically do a 4-7-8 breath, but Alex talks about Wim Hof so much, I've got to start doing that one too. I'm gonna
I
do
think
like
I
3
think that
different ones in the morning.
I think it would be beneficial for you, actually, Molly. I think Wim Hof will be really beneficial for you.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think I did it one time. Well, we've done it before in our classes together, but I did it once on my own too and felt really relaxed afterward. You almost feel like tingly like you can feel the blood kind of moving in your body. So it's really interesting. Um,
I I think it wakes you up. I think it really, because you get all that oxygen in. I mean, I think it's just incredible. Actually, the whole yesterday when we were watching Tony Robbins, I mean,
yeah.
he talks about what was really, really interesting. And I've never really watched him. Have you watched him, Molly? His stuff?
Not really. I've like heard him on podcasts before, but he's all about mindset. So he really fits
Oh, all
into
about mindset. And you know, the first thing he said, it's all about energy. It's all about energy. And that was something, that concept I honed in on like a year ago with Colin. We were going to do Energy IQ. And it's about energy. Everything is about energy, because guess what? If you don't have energy, you cannot do what you really want to be doing,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
um right. And again, I have been there 16 years ago. I had no energy. I was sick, depleted. I had zero energy. And there are things to do to get the energy back, and I think that's really important too. Like, what can you implement to get the energy, right? And again, these are not, it doesn't happen overnight. These are small little things that, you know, moving towards that, I guess.
Well, energy, I feel like at this point is such a commodity. It's like it's like this,
Yes.
everybody's looking for it. And I think when you become like a parent and you have all these other kind of responsibilities that kind of like sort of weigh you down in a way. I mean, children are lovely, but they're also, their work. So so it can kind of drain you a bit. So
Right.
I think especially for people in their 30s with kids, you look at energy a whole lot differently than you did when you were in your 20s and you kind of just had unlimited, like,
Mhm.
energy. You could do whatever you wanted to your body. You could drink all the time. You could do all this stuff and you just wake up like, nothing happened. And so
That's right.
yeah,
Yes.
it changes as you get older because you're kind of losing some of that cortisol. You're like also what we call an FDN, we call it your vital reserve. You've kind of like used up a lot of that, and then you sort of get into a place where, like, especially for women, when you get in your late 30s, your hormones start to shift into perimenopause, and then perimenopause kind of lasts for a while, and it really changes your energy output. So something as simple as breathing to add to your daily routine can make such a huge difference in terms of how much energy you have going.
But
Um,
but Molly, I have more energy now at 47 than I did when I was 30. So I'm
yeah,
saying there is hope for everyone. Do you
true.
know what I mean?
Very true.
There's
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
hope for everyone. But listen, I work on it hard every single day. I do stuff to and a lot of the stuff is mindset as well. It's a lot of mindset in there. We're talking grounding, breathing, exercising, eating the right things, staying hydrated. I mean, it's not just snapping a finger, and like, you got to work on it.
Yep. Yep. It's kind of daily practices for sure.
Daily practices, and maybe we can talk more about those. The other thing, Molly, maybe we should touch on in our next episode, because we don't have time now, but that I spoke to Deb about yesterday in the infrared sauna. We were pondering over a lot of different things, but one of them was this whole thing that you and I have been talking about: is how can we make drinking and okay, so not drinking and not taking drugs. I think that's super cool, right? How can we make that cool to be sober, basically, and the same transfer it over to our teenagers? Because it's such a society here in America, especially, where it's like, oh, you got to drink and do this to be cool, right? How
Yeah.
can we make it cool, and how can we make people feel great? Like, you don't need that. You're high on life, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, those are, drinking is a form of it's a drug too, right? So it's a form
Uh,
of sort of bringing you down from an overstimulated society, like we're all constantly stimulated and people need a way to relax. And that's the only way that they can kind of get it done. But what alcohol is doing is it's numbing part of your brain basically, and it's a poison. So, and when people don't realize this, but when you black out from drinking, it's because and you don't remember anything, it's because your brain is so heavily poisoned that it shuts down the first part of your brain that's for memory. And in order, that's what blacking out is. And people say it like it's nothing, like, oh, I blacked out last night or whatever. And
Right.
you're just like, you're
Like
like,
it's like
oh, wow.
normal or like nothing, right?
Right,
But
like
it's
it's nothing. And it's like, well,
like,
actually, you just poisoned your brain to the point that it was shutting off your
I
memory
mean, I
system.
mean, just listen to that. Oh
Right.
God.
It's just terrifying. But because it's so prevalent in society and so normalized, we don't really think of it as being bad. But like, I shared, and you saw this too. I shared on Instagram a reel of this guy who's like, I don't drink, I don't smoke,
I
and
love that.
he
Love
runs
that.
every day, and he's been running for like 5 straight years straight every morning of his life. I mean, granted, he's 23, he doesn't have kids.
Right. Right, right,
I
right.
mean, listen, I'm not saying we should all aspire to be him, but I think like, like I looked in the comments and I was like, wow, he's so inspiring. And in the comments, there was so much negativity about drinking and alcohol and all of this stuff. And I just thought to myself, like if I were looking at someone's party photos on Instagram, I'm not going to write on the wall, like, well, you shouldn't be partying and,
Right.
this is bad for your health. Like I would never say that. I would just be like, that's them living their life. But when other people see someone posting about not drinking, then they like attack them because it's
Incredible.
like a trigger, for people where they don't want to kind of look in the mirror and be like, oh, like I'm using this drug to like kind of hide from my life a little bit.
Yeah, or numb yourself for what
Yeah,
you don't want to feel, right?
yeah, you don't.
Uh,
Which
but
I feel for these people because I don't want to feel a lot of stuff either. There's a lot going on, right? Like you're stressed, you got kid stuff, you got parent
yeah,
life,
but that's mindset again. That's
right?
mindset because, and you learn that in the cold a lot. You just got to accept because
Yeah,
nothing is constant ever. Everything changes. We're always changing.
exactly.
Everything changes, and so does how we feel. It will not be constant.
Yeah. Well, what's also interesting about alcohol is like it's not just oh, I did that yesterday, my body's over it, now I'm moving on. Like it takes years. You can be drinking, like let's say you drink every weekend for years at a time, you're gonna really start to destroy your liver and destroy different parts of your body because of this poison. And it's interesting because it's like like I was on a phone call with an insurance company getting a new insurance, and they were asking me about what like all my drinking habits when I was in college. And I'm like, I'm 40, like
Right,
a
right.
long time ago. Like I'm like, okay, that was like 20 years ago and I don't even remember. But like the insurance companies know what's happening. They know how detrimental alcohol can be to your to your future health, like when you get older. So that's why they ask those questions. They're not asking them because they think it's fun. Like they're asking them because they want to know, should I cover this person or not based on what their alcohol history is. So that's pretty telling.
That's
um
telling.
yeah, like it's like, okay, well, they're on top, believe me, the insurance companies are on top of all this stuff, even
Oh
though,
yeah.
you
Oh
know
yeah.
because they don't want to pay for
They
you
don't
to
want to pay.
quit. Right.
Right.
So
Exactly. It's
so
amazing.
that's
Yeah.
really interesting, an interesting look at alcohol, but, you know, it's part of our culture, so it's like, how do we make it cool? You and I, we
Right.
gotta think of some way. We gotta make it like, well, there's like these sober communities that, or the drinking, there's like non-alcoholic beverages now that
Yeah.
are kind of becoming more popular.
Yeah, it's a good start. It's a great start.
Yeah,
And like Deb is doing her whole Outlive Labs. It's like she's got like some sober evenings for people coming and like dancing and biohacking and
yeah,
you
that's
know
great.
hanging
They have
out. And it's about community, It's about creating that community and having fun without.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not saying,
they
I mean, I'm not a teetotal Molly, but I'm just saying it's like, the every single night for a lot of people, it's like, how do we find something to replace that? How do we find that what you feel when you take that first sip of wine? How are we replacing that? How can we do that in another way?
right, right.
And,
Well,
and I mean, Dr. Amen, who I love, I mean, he's done so many studies on brains. I mean, like thousands, the one that's done the most studies on brains that, like, even like the one glass of wine is like, it's
mhm.
not that great. I mean, he's against alcohol, period. You
Yeah.
know that movie,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, especially for a psychiatrist, because
Yes.
when you're dealing with people with anxiety or depression or other mental health issues, you throw alcohol on that, and boof, you've got a fire. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I think for the average person, like doing it is one thing every once in a while, but like if you have a mental health problem, you should not be drinking. Like, but of course, they're the more likely to drink because
Of course,
that's
exactly.
what they're facing. So and it's really the only option our society gives them. But, like, these breathing techniques that we're talking about, that's great. That's like, another solution for feeling good, that feel good, thing. I don't know, for you and me, we go for a run, and that makes us feel really good, right? Um
Yes.
and that gets your endorphins going. So there are lots of different ways, but also being in community, period. Like the
Yes.
Sacred Space in Miami, they have these like dance nights where it's like a cacao ceremony with a dance party, and it's all sober, but you drink cacao, which has like a little bit of caffeine in it, right? So it kind of like gets you like a little bit energized. And then you like have a big dance party, which is super fun. And you don't need alcohol to enjoy yourself. Or at least people
Absolutely.
don't realize they don't need it, but
Okay.
right.
Okay, Molly, should we
Gotta go.
close down?
Yeah.
We always go over. We love talking. We can continue for another hour, but we're chewing people's ears off, right?
I know, but this was great. So, yeah, so we'll link to a couple of things in the episode, on the breathing techniques, and tune in next week. We're going to be talking about all sorts of fun health stuff.
Yes. Love it. So much fun, Molly.
Yes. All right. Bye, guys. We'll see you next
Have a
week.
great weekend.
Bye bye.
Ciao. Bye.